Joining us now, Comrade Kakpo Samuel, Non-Southwest Coordinator. Samuel, nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Very
Nice
good.
to meet you.
Now, I know you have been on the streets, you know, feeling the pulse and speaking to Nigerians and being one of those who understand how things are as one of the son of the soil, as the case may be. But talk to us basically, when the ban on motorcycles, this is not the first time it's happening in Lagos, and it's happening now. Has it come to stay, really?
Well, I do agree with His Excellency on the ban, but I personally feel that it is important that we have a review, because there are some axes that are short distances that you need bikes, you need the NAPEP to fly. For instance, Ikeja, for instance, there are some. If you want to go to the GRA, you can't get bus going to the GRA, and you don't expect the populace to take a walk from, for instance, along to.
Now, aren't there taxis within those kind of routes?
Well, I got an information that as of yesterday that taxis have started flying that route. That's what I got. It's a good one for us, you understand. But I also feel that the government needs to do what is right. And what do I mean by this? We need to take responsibility for our own shortcomings too. Lagos is more or less like a country. And I must say that the government is not doing enough to protect our borders. That is why we have, because the premise why this ban was played was because there are influx of some people that are non-Nigerians that are coming in to do their transaction, that is, use the motorcycle, yeah. But the reality is, from Beggar, for instance, there is no security agency that is doing an oversight function on who is going and coming into Lagos, as well as from the Ikorodu axis too. So I am of the opinion that when these are put in place, you are able to identify those that are coming in. I would also want to say that growing up, I know that, for instance, from Iyanoba to Maitu, you hardly see bikes flying that route. Even from Egbeda to Ikeja, you hardly see bikes. But the roads are bad. And Nigerians, Lagosians are frustrated. The fundamental is you leave your home 6 a.m., you get back 11 a.m. And the bulk of the time you spend in the office is not up to what you spend on the road. So it is important that the government take responsibility for our shortcomings.
All right.
I support the ban, but there's a need for review.
But sometime a video came up on the internet recently, and it was a video of the governor, that was October 1st, speaking somewhere where he said that he is going to regulate the activities of Okada and not ban. There was no talks about banning. Then one wonders, is there a challenge with regulation, or what changed?
Yeah, from the information I got, I was told that a number of Okada riders were apprehended and they couldn't even speak any of the Nigerian language. And this called for concern. That is it a function of them looking for greener pasture or something else? For instance, you don't expect that I bought a bike and I'm even telling the rider where I'm going to, and he doesn't even understand me. So he posed a security threat. I agreed. I think it was on that basis that the ban was placed.
Some persons in the past days, one of them said that the sight of commercial motorcycles and keke napep or tricycle, as the case may be, is a sign of poverty. What do you say to that?
Well, I may want to excuse me. I may want to excuse me. I may want to agree with that, but at the same time, I beg to disagree.
All right.
The reason being that the transport sector is a very viable sector where any individual would want to go into, and I think that's the premise why people are going into it. And for Lagos, which is the center of excellence, one of the most populated, if not the populated states in Nigeria, everybody is running here for greener pasture, the way people are running to the western world for greener pasture. So I would want to say that the transport sector is a viable place, and that is why people are going into that direction. So I wouldn't want to say it is as a result of poverty.
But some have come out to say that perhaps the Lagos State government should have put in place the palliatives before enforcing the ban.
Well, you know, it depends on the situation at hand. From what is being circulated, which of course is, when it comes to security, is of utmost importance to any government.
Definitely.
And I think that is the fundamental of why the government had to take that decision first. And I've also read in the news that the government had deployed 65 new buses And I also read yesterday, late evening, that about 500 new buses will be deployed. It shows that what was supposed to be done first is now being done, and maybe as a matter of urgency. That was why the governor had to take that decision at that time.
Well, the 65 buses that were initially released is part of 550 that is meant to be injected into the system. Now, the point there is, others are saying it is time to take advantage of all the other forms of transportation, especially the ferry, the water transport, which hasn't been very functional. And we saw the government launch, the governor launched some fleet of ferries. Isn't that the way to go?
Of course, it is the way to go. Growing up, I am from the rural area, and I enjoy ferry a lot.
Aren't we all from the rural areas?
Well, not everybody. I enjoy ferry a lot, and I must say that it is to decongest the road, for our road to even be long-lasting. We need to ply other means of transportation. I'm aware that the federal government is doing a lot to providing rail transport for the country. So water transport is another angle we can. It is even safer for me because, you know, except on rare occasions where there are water accidents, it is a free ride and I enjoy it a lot.
But some will tell you that not all areas within Lagos State have access to the docks where you have ferries to transport people. What happened in those areas? How about the inner routes, how people would move around before they get to the bus stops where they get these buses?
Yeah, that is why what we should be agitating for now is that access roads to where the ferries terminals are. I think that is important because I agree with you. For instance, from the one that is very close to me, the Ojo Jetty is a bit inward. You have to take bike or you have to take a walk down to the ferry point. We should demand for good access roads to the ferry terminals. I think with that you can navigate anywhere in Lagos.
The premise for which this ban is on is the fact that the state government is trying to tackle issues of insecurity. And the question is, are you confident that with this ban now, issues of insecurity have been resolved to a large extent in the state?
Well, I would say that it has contributed a lot because when the ban was placed, if you agree with me, a number of the riders have left Lagos. We saw a video of a truck that was loaded with bikes and the riders leaving Lagos. And you agree with me that a large number of crimes that are committed in Lagos are either maybe a rider and the bandits, for instance, they hijack your bag when you're on your way. Too many amount of crimes are being committed.
But some will say that we still see crimes being perpetrated by some buses that they call one chance. Yes,
it happens, but you can't compare that to the rate at which these people use bike to perpetrate their crimes.
So with that now, it is justified. Do you feel that this has really come to stay? Because this is not the first time that commercial motorcycles are banned in Lagos.
Yes, it boils down to the government to ensure that the laws are being enforced on the people and to also support the megacity vision of the state. It is important that we decongest the Lagos roads because we can't keep handling traffic issues every time. And if you look at it,
but there's still traffic congestion.
No.
There is.
I was on the I toured Lagos yesterday to about 2-3 different locations across different axes, and I would say that the roads are very free, quite discongested. Because if you look at a large portion of the road are being occupied by these people because there are no. It's not that there's a park for the Okada riders. You understand? So they would stay on the road, a place where a road of 2-3 lanes. You see them occupying one, they occupy 2, then the vehicles have to take one.
All right, so Lagosians have been told to adapt, and adaptation is one thing that Nigerians do. But then, by way of advice, what would be advice to Lagosians now?
Well, I want to say that for a society to move forward, we must be ready to adapt to changes and change. And change is very difficult to take. I want to appeal that the Lagosians should be law-abiding. And they should not take laws into their hands. If there's any reason why we should be aggrieved, we should ensure that we take the dialogue approach to engage the government. Because when we allow our homes to be battlegrounds, eventually when the war is over, we'll bear the consequence of the war.